Welcome to a brand new world. A world where the Earth doesn't spin. Where every night is 6 months long.
While here in Miami, we're being blanketed by snow again today.
And every day is 6 months too. And the planet is scorched by a relentless sun.
Today's solar radiation index is extremely high.
It's a world where cities have been swallowed by the sea, and others have been all but deserted, the air too thin to breathe. It's a world where we face a desperate future, struggling to survive in an alien landscape. This is the story of what could happen if the planet suddenly stopped spinning. And how on Earth, changing one thing changes everything. It's a fundamental fact. Planets spin. Our solar system was born 4.5 billion years ago from a spinning cloud of gas and dust. As they formed, the planets borrowed some of that early spin, and they've kept most of it to this day. At our equator, the Earth is turning at more than 1,600 kilometers an hour. The Earth is gradually slowing down, about 2 seconds every 100,000 years. But today, that slowdown is going to speed up. It will take 5 years, and by the end, the Earth will have stopped spinning completely. What would happen to our oceans? Our continents? The air we breathe? What would happen to us? On day one, the change in the speed of our rotation is practically unnoticeable, less than 1 kilometer an hour, but the results are dramatic. At Miami International Airport, the first sign of trouble.
Miami Tower, American 553, just turned on final.
Most commercial aircraft navigate with the help of GPS. GPS relies on a series of satellites, which tell an aircraft where it is. The ground bases the satellites communicate with are not where the satellites assume they'll be. GPS doesn't expect the Earth's spin to change so dramatically. The slowing Earth wrecks the carefully calibrated system. The effects are catastrophic.
American 721, aborting approach. Repeat, aborting.
Computers direct planes to land far from airports. Hundreds of thousands of lives are at risk as planes around the world suddenly discover their navigation systems don't work.
Scientists have confirmed an erratic reduction in the Earth's rotation. Some are even suggesting it will stop spinning in as little as 5 years. If it does, the results will be disastrous. Scientists are predicting no country will be spared.
In the first week, the problems mount in cities across the globe. The days are getting steadily longer, each one different from the one before. Seconds and minutes will soon become hours and days.
The $36 trillion world stock market is in freefall today. Uncertainty about what will happen has shattered investor confidence.
What will happen to a 24-hour-a-day world if it's longer than 24 hours? After 2 weeks, the world's spin has slowed by nearly 15 kilometers an hour. And the chain reaction gains speed.
Commercial aviation has been reduced to essential services only, with a record 470 accidents worldwide.
Time is the first problem on an Earth that is slowly losing its spin. But after 2 weeks, there's a new, even more critical problem. the oceans. Our planet bulges. It's fatter in the middle than at the poles. Our spin is one of the forces that keeps the water in place on top of the equator. But as that force weakens, the oceans begin to move. Seas start flowing away from the bulging equator towards the poles. More than 1 billion cubic kilometers of ocean are on the move. Northern places like the Canadian Arctic are the canary in the coal mine. 3 months after the Earth begins to slow down, water creeps over Arctic shores like an overflowing bathtub.
Sea levels continue to rise, and the Canadian government has ordered a full-scale evacuation of the Arctic.
And there's another dangerous effect on a slowing Earth. As sea levels change, the air we breathe is changing too. Our atmosphere is evenly spread across the planet, and it rotates in sync with the Earth. Now, with our spin slowing, the atmosphere follows the oceans flowing towards the poles. Among the first hit are cities in the tropics, including Rio, Mumbai, and Singapore. It's getting increasingly hard to breathe here. Further north, cities at higher elevations are also beginning to struggle. In the United States, people climbing in Colorado experience the effect dramatically. Altitudes of 1,500 meters are now like breathing at 4,500. Humans get altitude sickness at less than 2,500 meters. Just over 5,000 meters is the outer limit of survival.
Son?
The world is changing quickly, and the worst is yet to come. Four months have passed since the Earth started losing its spin. We're now spinning more than 225 kilometers an hour slower than we used to. Each day is almost 28 hours long, meaning 2 more hours of daylight and 2 more of darkness. Slipping time has thrown our world, the oceans, and the atmosphere into chaos.
Officials in Russia report that country's vast oil fields are now underwater, leaving that country with a fuel emergency just as winter approaches.
In most of the United States, flooding and thin air are not yet taking lives. People are coping. But suddenly, all over the world, there's a new, deadly problem. Earthquakes occur where there have never been earthquakes before. The Earth has 3 layers: a molten core, a solid insulating mantle, and a hard outer crust. They all rotate together. But as our spin decreases, each layer slows at a different speed, unleashing massive friction. The Earth is literally ripping itself apart, from the inside out. The waters off San Francisco are an area prone to earthquakes. But now, oceanographers here see evidence of seismic activity that they've never seen before. Deep cracks in the ocean floor release intense heat. Dead fish killed by the blast float to the surface.
Volcanic activity in and around Chicago has shut down several major arteries. Experts are advising that anyone who can stay home today should do so.
The slowing Earth has brought catastrophic geological disasters. The moving oceans are just as wild. Less centrifugal force means the oceans continue to flow from the bulging equator, steadily advancing to the poles. The ocean in the Arctic was once more than 4,500 meters deep. Now, it's more than 13,000. All that water has come from oceans to the south, and shallow areas like the English Channel dry out as waters drain to the poles. For the only time in recorded history, Britain is part of mainland Europe, and Ireland is connected to England. You can now walk from London to Paris. And it's not just Europe. Miami's famous beaches are now inland as the oceans surge to the poles. Cuba and Florida are connected by land, and Mexico is about a third bigger than it was. It's not only water that's on the move. As the Earth's rotation weakens, the atmosphere is now starting to settle towards the top and bottom thirds of the globe. These are the only places people can breathe. New York, London, Toronto are all safe. But Mexico City and other major urban areas to the south are now doomed. Their air too thin to breathe. In the United States, Denver is called the Mile High City. As the atmosphere thins, it now feels like it's almost 5 kilometers high, with an air pressure that's like breathing more than halfway up Everest.
Experts believe that air will remain breathable in lower elevation states such as Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma.
Water is flooding in from the north, and air is thinning from the south. But a few small pockets of habitable land still exist in the middle of North America.
These areas are not expected to flood. They are calling this the habitable zone.
Staying in Denver is a death sentence.
Come on, guys, let's go.
For the young and old, the effects are already critical.
You okay?
Soon, the air will be lethal for everyone.
The U.S. government advises that up to 25 million people in parts of the Southwest should evacuate.
The slowing rotation of Earth unleashes deadly friction between the Earth's outer layers and the inner molten core. Volcanoes and earthquakes have destroyed routes by road and rail.
Major highways across the country are closed, and those traveling by car are warned that there are no safe routes. Earthquakes, volcanoes, and violence are reported across the states, and those who must travel are advised that the government can offer little by way of help.
Those making the treacherous journey into the livable middle of the United States witness the geological upheaval caused by the slowing Earth. While earthquakes devastate the Midwest, retreating oceans leave major coastal cities high and dry. New York, Boston, Halifax are far inland. Australia has formed a new continent with Indonesia, and Asia's shallow coast is no longer a coast at all. In just 4 months, Hong Kong and other major ports are dry. shipping has come to a standstill all around the world. Others are discovering the slowing Earth has a new danger: death by solar radiation. An invisible electric field called the magnetosphere normally protects the Earth. The field is maintained by our planet's spin. The rapid rotation of the Earth's iron core generates it. The magnetosphere deflects blasts of solar radiation. But as our spin slows, the magnetic field is weakening, and our protective shield is breaking down. Tropical places like Miami are in no danger of flooding. The city sits on the Atlantic's continental shelf. Now dozens of kilometers of that shelf are exposed, and Miami is landlocked. And here, the air is still breathable, but the sun is deadly.
Today's solar radiation index is 8, or extremely high. People outside are reminded to completely cover up and limit exposure to 15 minutes. And remember, sunscreen does not protect against the risk.
It's been just over a year since our rotation began to slow. We're now spinning over 340 kilometers an hour less than we used to. The face of the planet continues to change. The waters of the Earth are still moving. And a year since it became possible to walk from England to France, it will never be possible again. At first, the shallow areas around mainland Europe drained as the North Atlantic Ocean converged on the pole. But now, as the polar sea swells, the United Kingdom and much of Europe are swallowed by a new ocean. London is gone. Berlin, gone. Moscow, gone. Historical cities of Northern Europe, all at the bottom of a new sea. In North America, survivors who have been able to make the trip begin to arrive in Kansas.